Hello and welcome to an AGK Twitch broadcast. A rare thing indeed. I think we've done about 3 of them. Well, we've done 2 of them. This is the 3rd. Including this one, we've done 3. And I was asked specifically to do this one because of a release that we did very recently on the HTML5 frontier. We can now export your AppGameKit app and it will actually run on browsers. Not all browsers, but most. Certainly when you get it on a server, Chrome works great, Firefox works great, stuff like that. So I just want to start off by apologising for those who believed me when I posted that announcement saying that the Game Guru live broadcast would be Thursday, and have shown up today waiting to hear about great Game Guru things. Let me apologise. That was a leftover JPEG from a week ago. It was actually yesterday. But don't worry, it's been recorded. We have uploaded it. You can find it in the Game Guru Help Tutorials live broadcast link. Click that and you'll get the whole juicy hour. And it's a really good one too, because we discussed infinite spawning, so you can have a million enemies charge at you. So if you want to find out what happened then, go check out that. It's available right now. Today I have reserved this hour or half an hour or anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes to talk about getting your AGK app onto HTML5. Something that was previously impossible. But now, thanks to the diligent and hard-working Paul, we now have that facility, and it's simply a question of pressing a button and having it run on a browser. Now, if it was as simple as pressing a button and having it on a browser, you wouldn't need this tutorial. You wouldn't need me wittering on for 30 minutes about pressing a button. Because there's some little gotchas that you may not know the answer to, and so hopefully this video will illuminate those dark corners. So at the end of the day, you can take your AGK app project, see what it's like on a browser. Now I must mention that it isn't a complete support for every single AGK command in the browser, simply because there was no equivalent in browser technology. So there's some commands that simply don't work and or don't make sense to run in HTML5. And some things which we could have virtualized and may still do, but haven't yet, such as being able to save and load files. It lets you do that, you know, you can save and load, but there's no persistence, because you're just running it on a server which is kind of like a read-only server, so there isn't really any server file activity. For that, you would need to write it yourself, and then you'd have to become HTML5 programmers. Which isn't really the point of AGK. AGK's point is you just sit down and write something once, and then we, that is the AGK internal team, take care of making it run on lots of different platforms. That's really the sales pitch for AGK. And how dare we then say, oh, and by the way, you know, I have to start writing lots of server-side stuff, PHP and JavaScript and all that cool stuff. So what we're probably going to do down the line in the future is virtualize a lot of this stuff. So if you want to save a file, and then a week later load it back in, but it just happens to be on a browser, that should really just happen. You shouldn't have to worry about it's a completely different infrastructure and has nothing to do with a file system. It's got something to do with accessing a server and getting read permissions and write permissions and all that kind of stuff. We have the power to virtualize that. It's just something that's not raised to the top of the list of things we have yet to do with AppGameKit. So hopefully that's a decent enough introduction. I've gobbled away 5 minutes of your life. You'll never see that again. And now what I'm going to do is pick an existing AGK game and get it running in HTML5. I'm not going to write one. It will take a very long time to write a whole game. Fortunately, we have some games that we prepared earlier. Now, I'm in the Steam folder for the AGK 2, and we'll go to Tier 1. We've got the editor here. Bin, run this. We should get IDE. Great. I'm just going to close some projects down. I don't want to really confuse the issue. I'm just storing a lot of things you don't need to see. The one I'm going to try and convert, and I say try because I must point out that this broadcast and every other broadcast I've done, I think I've done 49 broadcasts so far for Game Guru, and every single one was live, unrehearsed, unscripted, with only the vaguest idea what it is I'm going to talk about. And it's exactly the same here. I'm going to show you how to convert this app into HTML5, but I've never done it before. It could crash and burn for all I know. So you're going to experience it at the same time I do. I just have the advantage in knowing this software perhaps a little better and had a hand in writing it. So if we press run, this is our game that we're going to convert. Nestle, stop playing the game. So a nice, simple game with some controls. So how do we get that into HTML5? Well, it should be pretty easy actually. I go to File, go to Export Project Snake Snacker, select HTML5, get a great big dialogue of very useful information. I think we're 2D only, there's no 3D in the app, not even pseudo 2D. Not sure what dynamic memory is right now. If you hover over the tick box, disables some optimizations but allows your apps to use more than 256 megabytes of RAM. Having had some experience with creating stuff for browsers, less is more. You know, don't try and gobble up more memory than you absolutely need. So let's not tick that. I want to keep mine as small as possible. Then the output folder for HTML5, whatever it's going to be, will be AGK Projects Games, Snake Snacker. Did a naughty thing there. I'm going to copy that because I want to know where it is when I've finished. And I'm just going to click export. And I guess that's done. That did it. Whatever it did, it's done it. So now I'm going to go to that folder. So I'm imagining, yes, there's the Windows version. You can run that. But inside this HTML5 folder, it's created this folder and all these files. It's given us a backdrop. It's given us an HTML file. Given a little PNG. Let's look at these. We've got a nice ready backdrop. We've got a PNG file made with AppGameKit. We've got that, which is a browser file. It's running. I have a Chrome by default. I'm going to show you why this doesn't work. AGK player files and this big 18 meg one. That's the one that stores all the data, the sounds, music, all that cool stuff, and the rest of the support files in order to run it in a browser. So if I just double click Snake Snacker now, it's going to try and run it in Chrome. And here's a couple of things to be aware of. Don't try and run it in Internet Explorer. You'll have no chance. In fact, I don't think anybody uses Internet Explorer anymore, so just don't use it. In Chrome, it will work, but you have to have it on a server. And this isn't on a server, this is being run locally. You'll notice it's actually run it from drive F. Right? So, yeah. You don't want to run it in Chrome locally. Fortunately, just close that down for a bit. There is a browser that will allow you to run this locally, and that's Firefox. So find and install Firefox, and then you can right click on your HTML. It knows it's linked to HTML. You just click Firefox, then it launches through Firefox. And there you go. You've actually got it. Without any help from me, I might add. Just click export, and now it's running in Firefox in a browser locally. If I click, you've got music, you've got sound effects, graphics. It runs at the same speed. It's running in a browser, and it's easy as that. I mean, that's got to be better than writing JavaScript for weeks and weeks and weeks just to get something on the screen. And the best part is, if you're already familiar with AGK, but you are wanting to get into browsers, browser apps, browser games and stuff like that, you kind of have all the skills you need. We've just added an extra button. And that just proves how terrible I am at playing this game. come out of Firefox, and we're back to where we started. Now the backdrop and the PNG, and to some degree the layout of the HTML5, once AGK exports that, you can then change that to wherever you want. You don't have to have that border, you don't have to have that logo, you don't have to have the layout that you saw. You can do it any way you want. You can even force it to instantly go full screen. As soon as you go to a web page, bang, it'll go full screen. So you can do that as well. So that's how easy it is, but that's only half the story. Everyone can run a local file through their browser, but what you want to do is be able to publish it out there in the world so everybody can play your game, and that's what I'm going to show next. Now the next part's going to be a little bit sensitive because I'm going to have to go through logging into a server that I know about, and I don't really want you to see all my passwords because I'll get told off. So what I can do is switch you over to an AppGameKit standby screen so you can't see all my lovely passwords, and I'm now going to take all them files that you saw and I'm just going to dump them in a server. So let's see what happens. First of all, I need to see if I can find my server. Like I said, it's not rehearsed. This is really me going into places I dare not go. Okay, I've got a better idea. If I click that one, I've already shortcutted it. Yeah, brilliant. So if I come out of there, no, we'll stay here. I know you can't see anything just hearing the sound of my voice, but believe me, many cool things is happening. So I'm going to call it Snakes. So I've logged on to my own server. I've got my own server, and I've just created a folder in an area where I can create a folder, a right accessible folder called Snakes. Now what I'm going to do is find those files, which was in AGK Projects Game Snake Snacker HTML5. I'm going to copy all the files as is into that folder. When you have your own server, you have right access to it, and you can copy files as you see fit. And this is again only a part of it. Now I need to figure out the actual www address so you can actually run that HTML that you actually saw. And for that, did I make a note of it here? No, I didn't. Okay, well there's more than one way to skin a cat, because in our announcements we actually, now I've done that, I think I can close this down and give you my screen back. So I'm going to close down the FTP. Now it's all been copied over. Snake Snacker Snakes. Okay, I'll do a snapshot of that. Just grab this part. See, security conscious. Got to be security conscious this day and age. Now if I switch back to live, you should be able to see that's kind of what it looks like in my server. It's some gobbledygook about web exports and vhosts, but then we get to the juicy part which says www, HTML5 and snakes, and you'll see snakesnacker.html5 in amongst all them files. So that now lives somewhere on a server that I have access to. So that's cool. Now, don't exactly know the www address to it, but I do know something that I prepared earlier, which was our announcement about our HTML5, which was here. AppGameKit goes live. We did another game. I didn't write this one. This was an internal game. This was a most excellent game created, you know, from an AGK user, and it was awesome. I'm playing it for hours. It's quite addictive actually. But we posted it there, and now because I have that link, I can replace that folder with snakes, and I think it's called snakesnacker.html. If that address is correct, the files I've just dumped in the server is them. HTML5 snakes, snakesnacker, which it is. Loading the media, which took 5 seconds. And now, you've still got the music, click and play. You can run it in full screen mode if you want. I'll press escape to go back to regular browser mode. And like I said, the layout, like these buttons you can change anytime you want. But here's the thing, I'm in Chrome now, see? So in Firefox you can run it offline, but in on a server, you can run Chrome, you can run Firefox. Everyone is happily ever after, and there you go. There's the game. And it's as simple as that. There really isn't much more to tell. I mean, I can certainly witter on for the next 45 minutes. But if you wanted to know how to take an AGK game and make it run in your browser, it's that. It's simply press a export button, grab yourself a server, get right access to it, drop your files into that location, find out the address of that HTML, and then just pop it in there and you've got it. So, something that I've learned about from dealing with the Game Guru community is the need for full and total customization of everything ever. Which I absolutely agree with. I think if I just left it like that, you'd always be thinking, well, wait a minute, I don't want AGK advertising all over my game. I want my own game. So how would I do that? Well, I can show you. You see, we're already in our local folder here, and if I just right click and go to the Firefox just to show this is what we've got, our game. What you'd want to change is the backdrop, that logo, and any of the buttons and stuff. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So if I right click and go into Notepad++, it's a really nice text editor that includes highlighting for free. Let's see this. So snake.html, and you'll notice it is HTML. It's the code that makes websites do what they do. And you certainly do. This broadcast is not about teaching you HTML5. I wouldn't dream of doing that. But I am going to show you little bits that you can change. For example, let's say you didn't want those buttons. You know, the one which says go full screen and advertising AGK and the logo. We see these 3 lines here. I'm going to make a copy of that so I don't mess up. If I do mess up, I can go back in time. And if I just delete the footer, there, it's gone. Save that and then run through Firefox again. There you go, that footer, the whole buttons, the logo is gone. So you don't even need that logo graphic anymore. But maybe you don't like the backdrop. Maybe you don't like the backdrop at all. Well, what you can do is we can go into a package with our JPEG. See, it currently looks like that. Then you can do whatever you like with it. Let's say we don't want that. We want something. Ooh, what would that look like? Yeah, green. I want it green, and we want it reversed and upside down. And that's much better. So now what we're going to do is save that backdrop. That file's now been amended. Remember, if you want these reflected on your server, you have to re-upload the files, obviously. Just something to point out when you're wondering why your server's wrong. So now we've changed the colour of the backdrop. Or you could do more interesting things. Maybe we've got our backdrop, but you want to do some pretty pictures. So you could draw some stuff around here, like this. Save that. And before long I will start being preaching to the choir, because you get the idea. That graphic you can change, you can get rid or add things to this HTML5. Let's say you wanted buttons which advertise your other games, or controls to sort of links to some parent website, something like that. You could do that as well. And you probably want to get rid of this close button. That's useful for like Android, if you're deploying for Android. But what you could probably do in the AGK is detect the platform. You'll notice it's HTML5 or it's not Android. Then you can remove that big close button in the top right. So that's really it. I mean, I did not need an hour. I didn't even need 20 minutes. Didn't need 20 minutes to show you how to create your own HTML5 version of your AGK project. So this is a live Twitch. I think it is going to be a half-an-hour session. Great, which means you can go on, carry on with your live, carry on playing more levels of Doom. But it is live. There is a chat window. There's a couple of people logged in. So thanks for showing up. You're probably expecting Game Guru and you actually got AGK, so I'm sorry again for that. But if there's anything that I've shown that's not clear, and questions that you might think other people will ask when they watch this video, you are now in the spotlight. You have 5 minutes in order to ask a question that may be asked out there in the real world. And just to show it's not a fluke, I'm probably going to do it again with another project. We're going to open, need to find all the AGK projects, here they are. We've got a couple of games that are built in. We've got Santa's Bad Elf, very seasonal game. Smack It, very fun and addictive. And we've got Space Shooter. I'm going to go with Santa's Bad Elf because I like the graphics, they were big and chunky. So those are all the source files. There's the main project. We run it. You get to see a nice little game. Yes. And now we're going to export that one to HTML5. So as HTML5, it is 2D only, so we can just collect that location. So we're not going to be confused as to where it went. Export. Does all that lovely magic. Let me go and find it. Oh, look what I think it might have done. I think it dumped it over into the Snake Snacker one. So if we go back and do the same process again, we can confirm that horrendous mistake on my part. Yeah, Snake Snacker. So we're going to change that to Bad Elf HTML5. So export that. It may have created the folders for us. Yes, it did. Bad Elf HTML5. Run it through Firefox. And there we got it. I mean, you can't get quicker than that for HTML5 development. And the game is you gotta squash all the bad elves, but leave all the characters intact because they're not stealing presents. He's okay. He's stealing a present. See, I tried to squash him, but he was being nice. He's stealing a present. He's stealing a present. Now the idea is, if you let him get away with it and he gets to the side of the screen, then that's the end of the game. But for as long as the game's running, you're getting more scores. And you'll probably notice as well, the game's now getting faster. Which was the premise, just the idea of the game. Oh! See, a good way to wait for questions by playing a game that gets more and more difficult. Mrs. Santa there. And Rudolph. Oh! And if you click the wrong one, you lose points, but that's not as important as making sure you don't run off with the presents. Ah! You need to be quicker next time. So there you go, that's Santa's Bad Elf. And it looks like my tutorial has been so thorough, not a single question is raised, which is perfect for me. Means I did a good job. So that's how you convert from AGK, all the other platforms that are currently supported, and we introduce this idea of HTML5 deployment. It literally is one button press. It's that as HTML5, and then you basically take your files, put it on a server. Bob's your uncle. Job's a good one. So I hope that was useful, and it kind of removes the sting out of the worry of whether you can actually get your apps running in a browser. Like I said, avoid Internet Explorer, but Chrome and Firefox are great browsers. Those are the ones you'd recommend to your end users. Getting a server, access to a server that you can write files to, that's probably beyond the scope of this tutorial. But there are plenty of companies out there quite happy to sell you some server space or an entire computer on the internet that is full access to the server. You can also use your own computer and set it up as a server. So people can actually access your own local computer as though it was an internet server. Which certainly has advantages. You can fix it or increase the memory or increase the speed. But the downside is you're either running the machine 24/7, so it's on all the time. And if it goes down, if your game's really successful, then someone switches your computer off, then no one gets access to your server, and someone gets to play your game. But you know, those are the pros and cons of moving into the browser space and server apps and stuff like that. But if that's something you're interested in, then please do feedback on the AGK forums. I'd be happy to do another Twitch session on how to create your own server. That will be fine. But I need people to tell me they want it. Otherwise, it's me wittering away into the darkness and no one actually paying the blind bit of attention to it. So I hope this was useful. I hope you enjoyed it. I shall post it on the usual channels, so you can find this in video form in Videoland later on today. So until the next AGK Twitch broadcast, I am your host, Lee Bamber, talking about App Game Kit and converting games to HTML5. And I'll see you again soon.